everyone, I'm Dan Albers, and welcome here to the Where Are They Now segment on USBN Sports and the Big Eye Sports podcast, and also part of the Anderson Football History documentary. And I tell you what, I'm extremely excited to be joined by a member that was on the first undefeated team in Anderson High School history, and Vern Hawkins. Vern, I tell you what, we really appreciate it. I'm so looking forward to hearing some of your stories.
Well, there's a lot of them, and some of them I've forgotten, and some I might exaggerate. So that's why, I guess I'm ready.
Yeah, it'll be great to talk about. So, go back. Let's go back to, we were kind of talking before we went on air about back what your days growing up in Anderson and what that was like. It's a lot different than it is today. But talk a little bit about just growing up and what it was like in Anderson Township back then.
Well, you know, you'd ride a school bus to school, but I lived on the corner of Forest and 5 Mile, and it was only a little more than a half a mile to school, so we would walk to school every day.
Wow.
Or walk home, and, you know, if it rained, then we'd ride the bus. But it was pretty neat going to school there, and people would always slip out and go up to the grocery store and buy some stuff. You know, the cars would be parked in the parking lot, and one guy's car, and you couldn't lock it, so if anybody had to go uptown and run an errand, and they would sneak out, get in the parking lot, and take his car. And you could sit in the classroom and watch this car going up the road. He'd be sitting there next to you, and go, oh well. And it was pretty nice. It was a lot of fun.
And where did you live at in Anderson Township?
Right down Forest Road, about a half a mile from the high school, right on the corner of Forest and 5 Mile, where 5 Mile turns. The next house on the left up on the hill. And back then, there was no electricity down in that road. There was no running water. And there was no telephones. It was just like living out in the country, and it was pretty nice. And where Beachmont Mall is now was a great big pasture, and Bob Moore, one of my classmates, and he was a smart quarterback, he later taught at Turpin. They had some property there. He lived on Wolf Angle, and it was pretty nice. It was a lot of fun. Then Johnny Steele would come out to the house and everything. It was a lot of fun. We just always goofing off. I didn't have a car. They taught me how to drive. I learned to drive on a Model A Ford. Had it now, I could probably sell it for a bundle.
Yeah, no doubt. Let everyone know what position you played and what your number was, if you remember all that.
I think it was 51 or 52, and I was a defensive end most of the time. And one time, you know, I never did knife on the defense, but one time, you know, I knifed once. So the next time, they ran a play the other way, and Putt Merton, he was a great defensive man on there. He hollered reverse, and I said, "Eat gods, they're coming my way." And the guy came by with the football, and I reached out, you know, because, you know, now this would be a penalty, but my fingers caught his shirt, and we both went splat. And he lost about 5 yards, but you know, I didn't knife or, you know, you're supposed to block and watch, and then I just tried to cut across to catch the guys going the other way, and then reversed it. And I almost, you know, blew a whole play. But the defense was a lot of fun. And Bob Moore, he was talking one time at a place, and he says, they'd come around the corner toward Vern, and you could see him over there taking the guy and say who had the football. Yeah, that was a lot of fun with Bob there.
Yeah, so you obviously, why one of the reasons we're here talking to is that you played on the first undefeated team in Anderson High School history. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that team and what that season was like for you personally.
Well, it was great. I mean, you know, we never thought anything about it. And the thing is, you hate to see your parents come to a football game. If you get knocked down laying there, they want to run out on the field. Oh! And I said, you don't embarrass me if I get splattered. But the team was great, and nobody ever talked about it. But it just happened, like, we'll play these guys, and then we'll get these guys, instead of thinking, about, hey, we're going to be undefeated. We never thought of it. It was a thing that we look forward to after you did it, but before you did it, you don't want to put pressure on yourself. So you just relaxed and went out and played the game, and that's how it went. Taylor High School was tough, and then sometime they would put a play called a sleeper. You know what a sleeper is?
I do not.
Well, the coach would call the other team timeout, and then everybody would come back on the field. And one guy would stand over on the corner by the bench, and he's still on the team, and when the ball was snapped, pass would go to him, because they saw him and he would be gone. So we had to cover the sleeper, and we had to play Madeira. Madeira was good. Mount Healthy was good. They were all good. And then we just, you had Johnny Steele. He had 27 touchdowns in 9 games, which is pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Because he could outrun you. If he couldn't outrun you, he'd run over you.
And you also had Bob Moore. I was going to say something about John Steele, but Bob Moore.
Smart quarterback.
Yeah, talk a little bit about both those guys again with John Steele and Bob Moore.
Well, Bob was the smartest guy around because he was quarterback, and he came to Anderson about his 8th grade year from Millersburg Military in Kentucky, and MMI and the kids would say, "Oh, here comes Mother's Marching Idiot," because it was a military academy. But he didn't bother him. The boys, everybody had nicknames and things, and it was a lot of fun. He was very intelligent. He later taught at Turpin High School, and I don't know where he is now.
I think he passed away.
He did?
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah, I think just recently, I think.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Around the going to the funeral.
Yeah, and then Johnny Steele, like you said, was I've always, he's in the Hall of Fame for his thing. I think he scored. He might have scored the. I know he had the record there for a while for most touchdowns. Talk about how special player he was.
Well, he was fast, and he was strong, and he was just like a bear. You don't mess with him, and he just could outrun you or run over you. And we always had to have play called. It was a reverse, and he would always get it. He'd be over here when they reversed it. He would get it and go the other way and be gone. And then sometime on the reverse, they would be picking him off. Merton boy would be down the field, and John would throw him a pass, and he'd catch it, score. And Johnny Burns was quick. He could fly. They were all, good athletes, and they were all there. And defense, Harold Taylor was a good ball player. Good defensive man. Bill Crummell, he was an offense and defense. But we just had a good time. Everybody stuck together.
You probably didn't have a lot on the roster, did you? Because the school back then, Anderson was small, wasn't it?
Yeah. We had 49 in our graduating class. 49 49ers.
Wow.
That was in our graduating class was 49.
Wow.
And, if you look in the yearbook, you'll see how many players were on the team. There wasn't that many players.
Right. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we talked with some of your other teammates. I've talked to John Roos and Ray Burlew. Talked to both of them, and they had glowing things to say about Coach Brown. Talk a little bit about Coach Brown and his influence on you.
Well, he was just a guy you liked, and you never worried about it. He was a good teacher, and you just, your parents, and you do what you're told, and we do it, and never thinking about doing anything different. And he was just a smart man, and he'd give you stuff to do and work, and it was just, I don't know, you couldn't beat him, and we had a good time.
Yeah, and Brownie also obviously started the athletic program at Anderson. He coached multiple sports, and I think he coached you in basketball. Did he coach any different in basketball than he did in football, or was he pretty much the same?
It's pretty much the same. And, you know, about our freshman or sophomore year, we used to play 6-man football. And then they went to 11-man. That's when we, you know, hey, this is pretty good. And everybody got a chance to show their stuff. And nobody never got hollered at or anything. And, you know, like, well, that was dumb. Why did you do that for us? You know, you come out and say, well, you know, if you did something messed up and nobody played, you know, like they were trying to hurt anybody. They were just trying to play the game and do it. There was no evilness in anybody. They were a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you play. Correct me if I'm right or wrong on this one, but in '48 when you guys went undefeated, was that the first year that he came up with that offense? That was it the
T formation?
T formation, yeah.
Where? Oh, I forget the name of the college.
It's West Virginia. Yeah, or somewhere in West Virginia, I believe.
Yeah.
Don Giroux.
But we used that T formation. That was our offense, and everybody. We had all kind of plays, and you know there was about and the quarterback Bob, he'd call so and so, and most of the guys had their helmet off because they had a tag inside the helmet, on play so and so. I get this guy or block this guy. You knew who you were going to block or what you were going to do, because you're too many plays. You never went to class to learn plays, and that's how we did it. We did it.
Yeah. Was there any game or team that you played that sticks out in your mind that either that or any you've obviously mentioned a couple guys with Bob Moore and John Steele, but is there any game that kind of sticks out to you, or anybody that you played against too?
Well, we were playing, I think it's the last game of the year, and I can't remember who it was, but at halftime it was 6-6. And John Steele comes in and says, because my side kind of hurts here. They looked at him and, you're okay, put a little tape on it. And second half, he ran 3 touchdowns. We outscored him 47-0 the second half. And he had 3 broken ribs, and he ran his touchdowns with that.
Wow.
And the yearbook has got who we played, what the scores were. But I think we won 53-6 on that last game.
That's crazy.
And then, everybody always said, there was a thing in we had a school paper called the Lander or something, and said, well, fireworks must have exploded in the locker room at halftime of the last game. I think it was Terrace Park, I'm not sure. And he said, because the second half, Georgetown, Anderson came out like they were going on fire, and they were. It was great. And then sometime, Putt Merton made a great catch. John threw a football, and it was real long, it was about 40 yards, and Putt dove and caught the ball. And, we scored on that one. And Johnny Burns outran a couple guys, and it was just good. It was just hard to play in ball. And a lot of guys on defense, that's all we played, because you didn't have to, go, that's why a lot of teams were wearing out, because the guys would be on offense and defense, and about the 4th quarter they were shot. Now, they're ready to roll.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So talk a little bit, we talked a little bit before we went on air about when you left Anderson, where you ended up going to school and some of the sports you played.
I was walking down the road going home one day, and Jamie Truitt was one of the assistant coaches, and he gave me a ride. He said, you want to ride? I said, yeah, I'll ride, because we're going down Forest Road. It wasn't that far, but he said, how'd you like to go to UC for nothing? I said, what? Because I wouldn't have been able to afford to go to UC. And he said, they want you for track. I said, okay, I'll go. And I went there for 2 years. And then, was it the Korean War? Yeah, one of the guys in my class got killed over there in Korea. Another one was going to marry a girl up here in this area, and he got captured, and he was a prisoner of war for a few years. And I was in the Navy, had to ride a train to San Diego, then come back to Jacksonville for another school, and then they sent me all over the place, you know, working on airplanes, and it was a lot of fun.
And you ended up running, going back and running track for UC.
Then when I got out of school, I was going to go out to California to be an aircraft mechanic. And the track coach lived over in Hyde Park, and our gas station was at Mount Lookout. He stopped in one day and said, "Mister, you're going back to school." And I said, "What?" He said, "You know, you're going." So I went back and finished up at UC and graduated, got a job at Georgetown, and been here ever since.
You know, talking about that, we are here in Georgetown, Ohio, where you were a track coach.
Yeah.
And you did so well that I think they named the track after you here at Georgetown. Is that correct? Or
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your time here at Georgetown and getting here to Georgetown.
Well, back then the kids, you know, they were tough. They're still tough, but not as tough as the other bunch was, because I had kids. One year in '71, the kid won the 100, the 220, and the 440 at the state meet the same day.
Wow.
And we got a state trophy, state runner-up for one guy.
Wow.
And then I had a state champ shot putter, a guy high jump 6'10", but he didn't make it to his third jump, and the other guy, two guys beat him because one of them made on his first jump, and one made on his second jump, and he made on his third jump. And then they went up to 7 foot, and nobody made it, so they moved back down 6'10", said, "Okay, you're first, because you only made on the first jump, you're second," and my kid was third, but still 6'10", that's a pretty good jump.
Wow, it is.
And a 2-mile relay team, a cross-country team, won once, lost by a point at the state, and there were hundreds of guys running. And then win by 100 the next year, lose by 1, then win by 100. It was great, and the kids, they really liked the run. And
How long were you here at Georgetown as a coach?
58 till 91 when I retired.
Wow.
Well, I still coached till 96. Then I said, you know, I'm getting old and cranky. Not cranky, but, you know, getting old. So I just decided it's time to go.
Yeah, and so let's talk a little bit again about, you know, why Anderson is such a special place for you and your connection. I know a lot of the guys that I have talked to, including Charles Brown's son, Charles, that, you know, they bring your name up and just the love that each one of you guys have for each other. Talk a little bit about just that special connection you guys all have.
Well, we're just a lot of friends, you know, it's just fun to be around and everybody trusted everybody. And if they needed, nobody ever tried to bum anything off of you. And it was just great. I mean, it was one of those things like, you know, you're living the life. It was great. There was nobody, you know, acting like an idiot or anything.
That's pretty amazing. So again, so do you have maybe a favorite, like a high school memory, and then maybe as a teacher and a coach, do you have any kind of memories or one of your favorite ones, anything that sticks out for you?
Well, I don't know. I would coach basketball a lot. I had a girl that played up here, and they didn't have any three-pointers back then, but in 4 years she scored 2,385 points.
Wow.
And she was a smart, very intelligent person. And her, let me see, it was her brother married a gal from Ripley, and their son was playing for the Red Sox
Really?
last year. Benintendi boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she went to Georgetown, and
No kidding.
her brother went to Georgetown, but the girl he married went to Ripley, and then they came back, and when this boy was born, I think he went to Madeira High School.
Yep.
Andrew, was it Andrew?
Yep. Wow,
And he was, then we had Brian Grant here.
Yeah, I remember Brian Grant. Yeah, played at Xavier.
Yeah, he came into school one day and said, Coach, they wanted me to go over to the X and try out. And I went over, I said, how'd you do? He said, I played okay with him. I said, can you run with him? He said, no, but when they get done with me, I'll be able to run with him. And he did a pretty good job over there. He was a great kid. His dad ran track for him. He was fast, really tough little guy. And there were so many people. And the best kid I had for a distance runner was a B-craft boy, Mike, and national cross country, I think, when he was in college, he was ranked second in the whole country.
Wow.
And, and cross country, which is not too bad.
No, that's pretty good. Do you have like a maybe? And you mentioned the one game that we thought when you were down, tied 6-6 at halftime. Do you have another Anderson football that sticks out with you that's a pretty good memory, or is that pretty much it?
Well, you just say, well, we'll just get the ball to Steele and he'll take care of it. And that's what they do, because he knew he could take care of it, do what was supposed to be done, and he'd do it. And didn't say, oh man, I got to do that again. No, hey, this is fun. They liked it. They were ready to romp.
You got anything that you'd want to say to? I know a lot of people in Anderson that they really love the history of Anderson High School football. Is there anything that you would like to say to the community in Anderson or anything like that?
Well, everybody was just sticking together. There was no, people coming around, what's the matter with you guys or anything like that. They, kept you thinking positive. Everybody was always on the positive end, and there was no, dissension. Nobody argued with each other or anything. Nobody complained to anybody, and had some great kids. Johnny Burns, I said, and Putt Merton. There was a big kid named Bob Redmond was really good. Buck Leslie. You could go on through the whole list, and they were all great people. You couldn't beat them. Yeah,
it sounds like it is. I tell you what, I want to let you know that I want to thank you so much for letting us do this, because I'm part of the Anderson Football Alumni Association, and I know that we appreciate what you guys have done, and you've really set the tradition that Anderson High School has done, and where they're at and where they continue to go. It's because of guys like yourself and guys like your teammates, and I want you to know that people in Anderson appreciate what you guys did, and we really value your team, and thank you so much for what you've done for Anderson.
Well, we weren't thinking about any glory or anything. We were just, hey, we got to play these guys. We're going to take care of it, and weren't thinking about undefeated season. We just like to win, but there was no dissension any place. There was just, everybody was always together.
That's great. Patrick, I don't know if you got any other questions, or are you pretty good?
Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, that was awesome.
We really appreciate. So we're going to wrap it up here. So again, we really appreciate.
I want to thank you guys for coming up. I didn't know anything about, because most of the time, schools, they do something great, and that's it. The people don't come back to them or anything like that. But things are different now.
Yeah, but we know that's why we're doing this documentary, because we felt like it was important to show and actually the beginning parts of Anderson football and what it meant, and you guys honestly were the catalyst to bring it to where it is today. So we really appreciate again you taking the time, and we love it out here, and we really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. So for Dan Albers and Vern Hawkins, you've been watching Where Are They Now segment, and also on our